Hey there, and welcome. In the next few minutes, we're going to absolutely master one of the most fundamental tools in the English language, the present simple. You'll see, we use this thing all the time, so let's make sure we're getting it right.
So, let me just start by asking you a question. How often do you think you actually use the present simple tense? I mean, really think about it. When you describe your day, your habits, what you like, you're probably using it way more than you even realize.
Yep, the answer is every single day. It's literally everywhere. Getting this tense down is a total game changer for your fluency and confidence, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now together.
Okay, first things first, let's get into the why. Why does this tense even exist? Well, I want you to think of the present simple not just as a grammar rule, but more like a multi-tool. A tool that has 5 very specific jobs. Once you know what those jobs are, you'll know exactly when to pull it out and use it.
That's right, just 5. 5 main jobs for this one super useful tense. So let's break them down.
So here they are. We use it for routines, for facts, for schedules, for giving instructions, and for talking about feelings. Let's take a quick look at each one.
All right, use number 1, and probably the most common one, is talking about routines and habits. You know, the stuff that happens over and over again. Like, I wake up at 7 a.m., or, as you see here, she goes to school by bus. It's not just happening this one time, it's a regular part of her life.
Next up, we use it for facts. We're talking about universal truths, things that are just always true no matter what. For instance, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, or the classic, the sun rises in the east. Because it's a constant, unchanging fact, we use the present simple.
Now, use number 3 is for schedules and timetables. And what's really cool about this one is that we're often talking about the future, but because it's a fixed, official schedule, we use the present simple. So we say, the train leaves at 9 p.m. The schedule itself is a fact in the present. Pretty neat, right?
And job number 4, giving instructions. Anytime you follow a recipe or tell someone how to get somewhere, you're using the present simple for each step. First, you mix the flour and sugar. Then, you add the eggs. It's just so clear and direct.
And finally, our 5th use, expressing feelings, thoughts, and opinions. These verbs, like, love, think, believe, they describe your state of mind. They aren't really actions that are in progress. That's why we say, I like chocolate, and it sounds so strange to say, I am liking chocolate.
Okay, great. So, now we know why we use the present simple. Let's move on to the how. How do we actually build a basic positive sentence? The structure is super simple, but there's one tiny crucial rule you have got to remember. All right, listen up, because this is the big one. This is the single most important rule of the present simple. For I, you, we, and they, you just use the normal verb. Easy. I play. We read. But for the third person, he, she, or it, you have to add an S to the verb. He speaks. She cooks. Honestly, this one little letter is where most of the mistakes happen.
Now, since that third person S is such a big deal, we've got to make sure we get the spelling right. Because, well, it's not always as simple as just adding an S to the end. So let's look at the rules for what I like to call the tricky third person.
Okay, here's rule number 1. If your verb ends in one of these sounds, O, ch, sh, s, x, or z, you can't just stick an S on it. I mean, try saying washes or catches. It's awkward, right? So to make it way easier to say, we add an ES instead.
Take the verb wash, for example. It ends in sh. So for he, she, or it becomes washes, as in, he washes his car. See how much smoother that sounds?
And it's the exact same deal for catch. It ends in che, so it becomes catches. The cat catches the mouse. Notice how that ES adds a whole extra syllable? That's what makes it so much easier to pronounce.
Right, our next rule is all about those verbs that end in Y. If the letter right before the Y is a consonant, you know, any letter that's not a vowel, like the D in study, then you're going to change that Y to IES.
So a word like study becomes studies. We literally drop the Y and add IES. He studies every night. This is another super common one to keep an eye on.
But wait, there is a huge exception to this Y rule. If the letter right before the Y is a vowel, so A, E, I, O, or U, you do not change the Y at all. You just add the S like normal. It all comes down to that one little letter right before the Y.
And the perfect example of this is the word play. It ends in a vowel, A plus Y.
So it simply becomes plays. She plays the piano. No IES needed here.
So, we've totally nailed positive sentences. Now, let's complete our toolkit with negatives and questions. And to do that, we just need two magic little words: do and does.
And honestly, this is way simpler than you might think. For negative sentences, you just use don't or doesn't. So, he doesn't like coffee. Easy. And for questions, the formula is just as straightforward. You start with do or does. Do goes with I, you, we, and they. And does goes with he, she, and it. But, and this is the key part, look closely. After does, the main verb goes back to its original form. You ask, does he play? Not does he plays? The word does already has the S sound, so it does all the heavy lifting for you.
All right, let's bring it all home. Here is your complete present simple toolkit. Just remember it's 5 jobs, from routines to feelings. Always add that S or ES for he, she, and it. For negatives, just pop in don't or doesn't, and to ask a question, you lead with do or does. That is the core of it, right there.
And there you have it. You've got the tools now to use the present simple with total confidence. You know the why, the what, and the how. So my final question for you is this: what are you going to say first?